Howdy y'all, Alexander here with High Winds EDC, and I'm coming at you with another full review. Now I'm coming at you with a full review because I feel like I am out of the honeymoon phase with this particular knife, the Koenig Arius. Let's see, Gen4 Batch 5. Yeah, I feel like I'm officially out of the honeymoon phase with this knife, and I feel like I can look at it and talk about it objectively and see where we're at with this, see where I have arrived to as far as a lot of the different things. But yeah, let's talk about it. So we're gonna do a little bit of a size comparisons to begin with. I think a really good size comparison to this knife is gonna be the Chris Reeve Umnumzon, and you can see dimensionally, if I put it hilt butt to butt, it is almost identical in length, almost identical in blade length, handle length, but then we get to this dimension right here, and the Arius comes in a little bit thicker but lighter in hand. So this is a very heavier knife. It's a much heavier knife, sorry, not a very heavier. This feels lighter, but the blade feels heavier. The action is on bearings. It is a flipper and thumb hole opening, so reverse flick. I will say that opening this in a standard thumb hole motion is a little bit more difficult. It's not going to be your primary means, but you have to find the sweet spot, and it took me about a day to find the sweet spot. Flipping action is obviously really nice. So yeah, let's compare it to another American-made flipper. This is kind of like one of those production level hinderers. This is the ZT0393, and as you can see, the Arius is just a little bit longer. Let's do pivot to pivot. Identical blade lengths. The handle is just a slightly smaller. Now this is modeled after the Hinder Eclipse. It is also running on bearings, and they're both American made, but the comparison is just night and day, honestly. Like, you have to be brutally honest, because the lockup on this one is really nice. The lockup on this one leaves a lot to be desired. The lock bar insert on the Arius is just leagues ahead of what this ZT is, where it's at. The pocket clips are this one leaves a lot to be desired, but it's fully functional. This one is fully functional as well, but it looks really cool, and it gives you enough purchase to pull in and out of your pocket. The thickness, I believe the same situation. The Arius is a little bit thicker, but feels lighter, and the reason why that is, sorry, didn't mean to scrape. The reason why that is because of this internal milling inside. There's internal milling inside the whole knife. So yeah. And then we will compare it to one more American-made flipper, the Benchmade Vector. This is the nomenclature on this one is 496. So yeah, as you can see, again, identical length, blade length. This is almost pivot to pivot, and I'm seeing almost no difference in size and length. This one does come in a little bit thicker, but it's light as well because it has this, in turn, also has internal milling, skeletonized liner, G10 handles, aluminum bolster. So it makes it very light and throws the balance kind of more towards the, I guess not really that good, but the balance on the Arius is going to be, it's going to be blade heavy. Right. Oops, sorry, there. Oops. Anyways, so if balance is your thing, yeah, it's not going to be the most well-balanced thing. However, we'll talk about some of the ergonomics, but I'm going to actually switch up my camera angles. So the Koenig Arius, like I said, I am officially out of the honeymoon phase with this knife. When I first got this knife, it was my biggest purchase yet. The highest dollar amount that I had spent on an American-made knife. And before that, it was the Slish Bowie, and before that, it was my CRK Umnumzon. So there was a major price jump. I had to sell a lot of items. I had to sell the Slish Bowie, which I thought was a fair trade-off. Frame lock for frame lock, 20 CV for 20 CV, yeah. So I had to sell another Demco, my 8020S, and then I sold a Demco 8020.5 and Oz 10A, my first Demco. So a lot of movement happened for this knife. But now that we're officially out of the honeymoon phase with this blade, I feel like I could talk about it, like I said, objectively, without any bias, without just having like a hype behind it, without a honeymoon phase behind it. And let's see where we've arrived at, is an overview. So we'll talk about the ergonomics. The ergonomics are actually really nice. I like the ergonomics on this. I feel like this neck right here, that's what I'm going to call it, this neck is really thin, and I can choke up right here if I really needed to get my thumb all the way around it, and it's nice and secure. Then you got a lot of dump truck for your palm, and we really like that. I like it. We do like the internal milling because it makes this feel, this is going to sound very silly, it makes it feel like it's made out of aluminum, even though we know it's made out of titanium, and that's awesome because of the aforementioned internal milling. Yeah, and so we'll go from tip to handle. So we got 20 CV blade style with a very, very high hollow grind. It just so good. You got a thumb hole opening method, you have a flipper, you have blue anodized hardware, and there's not very much hardware holding this thing together, and that is a big plus. It's very minimal. You do have this blue anodized lanyard hole, lanyard pin, I don't know what you would call that, but it's really good, really nice, very aesthetically pleasing. On the frame side, you have, when the blade is open, let me see, I gotta try to, you can see the batch number and generation that it's in. This one's Gen 4, Batch 5. And I think that's really cool. I think it's really clever to have your model display its like generation, you know, because I feel like it's a generation thing. It's not necessarily your birthday, because you do get that information on the box, which I have here. This is a box it comes in. It's very handsome. It has the magnetic opening on the front, proudly made in the USA. Gives you a nice microfiber cloth, which I don't really use. And then it gives you Arius M390, 6AL full V titanium, and the date of birth is April 28th, 2021. It's your COA, Certificate of Authenticity, and that's really cool. I like it. I love that because I bought the Slish Bowie, and that unboxing was very underwhelming. There's not a lot of presentation that goes into that, and I feel like at this level you're kind of buying some of that presentation. I've seen that some of the more machine ground Demcos come in a very underwhelming box, even more underwhelming than a Spyderco box. So that's kind of like you're spending like $500 for cardboard, and I know the knife is what you're buying, but at the same time, once you get into another level, you're expecting a little bit of presentation, and that's what the Koenig Arius allows you to have. And it's the same thing with the Umnumzon. With the Umnumzon, you get this really nice box. This Chris Reeve box, famous. It's got a certificate of authenticity. You get a little bit of swag as far as stickers. You get hardware to disassemble the knife. So yeah, and then we'll go to the handle's made out of titanium, but this one is got some awesome texturing. I love this one. I'm gonna try to really make sure you guys see it. It's got really good texturing on both sides of the knife, and that's really cool. That's what is that? It's that extra step that they didn't necessarily have to go, but they're doing that. They're doing that for the enthusiasts. They're doing that for us, so that way you're not just getting plain Jane titanium knives. All right. So that's cool. It is a frame lock. The lock bar axis is actually dreamy. It's so dreamy. You can see how it's kind of chamfered right here, and you have plenty of lock bar access. The texturing on the actual lock bar is really nice. I like that. It's not too aggressive. The flipper itself, same thing. It's got some jipping right here, but it's not aggressive at all. And I have never failed this knife because the detent is dialed in. And that's where we get into a conversation about tolerances. And this thing has got some great tolerances. When I was trying to disassemble it, if you guys recall, I was having a little bit of trouble, but that's because the pivot screw and the I guess the female side, the captured pivot side, the tolerances were so tight it felt like it was under pressure. And then a guy commented, he said, well, try relieving pressure from the actual system. So like this means that the lock bar is under tension, this means that it's under tension. So what you want to do is you want to break some of that tension, and it still felt the same, honestly. So I've disassembled this thing twice now. I haven't sharpened it yet, so we're going to get into some of that later. But overall, the reason why I haven't sharpened it is because of factory edge. It's held up so well over the last month and some weeks. It hasn't been exactly 2 months, but we're there so right now, and we like it. I like it. I carried it a lot. Now, I do like the lanyard position. It doesn't leave anything to be desired. Honestly, it's really good. I think if you're gonna do one, you should do it like this, or you should do like a lanyard pin, something that's not as noticeable. Let's see. I have an example right here with the Peñamula. That lanyard pin, it's like it doesn't take away from the aesthetics of the knife, but it also adds the functionality of using a lanyard pin, a lanyard if you do so choose. This guy adds to the aesthetics, but it's also a very functional lanyard hole, so that's cool. We like that. That's another attention to detail, and this is something that they have been doing for a while now. Yeah, so I think that's all the way in. And then I love the clip. The clip is just really good for jeans, so if we take a look, we're right here. You stop right here, so this is about as deep as it goes in your pocket, and that's okay. That's a good. It's just ready to be used. It's ready to be pulled out and used. Giggity. So anyways, we like it. My favorite part about this whole knife, if I have to be completely honest, is definitely the hollow grind. It's my favorite part. And I think it was really functional. It's really good. And then the edge retention has been very good. I've only ever had to strop it. I haven't had to hone it or anything like that. And I've put it under some really good use these last, I would say 6 weeks. To be fair to myself, I'd have to go back and check. But it's been really nice. It's been really fun. We'll talk about so my favorite aspects of the knife, not my favorite. All right, guys, sorry. Welcome to my humble abode, but as I was recording, my phone overheated. I recorded in my garage, and right now it's like 98 degrees outside, so my phone overheated, so now we're indoors. Like I said, welcome to my humble abode. Please excuse the edits. I'm doing it on iMovie off my cell phone, so I have a very high production value. Let's go. Anyways, like I was saying, some of my favorite aspects about this knife, honestly, are its photogenic abilities, like how photogenic this knife is. This knife is very photogenic in what you would say, like, sorry, I'm trying to give you guys that batch number on the inside. It's very difficult because of the shadows. It's all right. But anyways, so it's very photogenic. A lot of my posts got a lot of likes, and you do have to explain that as a factor, as a facet of a knife like this. People like it. It's very attractive. The attention to detail shows up very well on camera, and you know you got a good thing here. So that's probably, besides the blade, that's probably my favorite facet of the knife, that is very photogenic. We'll talk about something that I don't ever really hear a lot of other people talk about, which is why I start talking about it, and that's heirloom factor. Is this a knife for life? Yes and no. The reason why yes, it is a knife for life is because if you decided that you wanted to drop $800, $900 on a knife, and it to be the last knife you ever purchased, and it was gonna get you through the rest of your life, this would be a good knife to settle on. However, for me, I think that it is a really good work knife. It is really good, like the warranty that is behind this knife. Koenig stands behind their product, and that is something really freaking awesome. I don't know if like you void your warranty if you take it apart. I haven't looked it up. I know if you do a lot of aftermarket modifications and stuff, you will void the warranty. But at the end of the day, why would you? Especially mine. I can tell you one thing right now. For me personally, I would have preferred something with bronze hardware. I really think that would have just been really freaking cool if it would have bronzed the hardware on this one, if I would have gotten one. I think that aesthetic is just a little bit more pleasing to me, as far as not the blue, not having the electric blue stuff all over this. But anyways, what else can I say about the Koenig Arius that hasn't been said yet? That's kind of why I try to do this in my channel. We talk about heirloom factor. You could pass this down easily to your son, your daughter, your niece, your nephew, whoever it is, your grandson or granddaughter. This knife can be passed down. It does have that heritage factor. It has a birth date, so I see a lot, like not a lot, but like every now and then there's somebody looking for an Arius with a certain birth date because they're trying to find it, match their kid's birthday or their own birthday, and that's really cool. I feel like that's just like a plus one in the positive factor. So yeah, that's really cool. Now, for me, it'd be a great work knife, but at the end of the day, I have a lot of really good work knives. I have a ZT0640. It's just a really good ergonomic work knife. Gets the job done. It's got a very long blade, so I got a lot of life on my edge. I have things like like you saw earlier, Benchmade Vector, which is really good for work. I feel like this knife is designed to be used hard. And then I also have, of course, the Chris Reeves Umnumzon. That's in a Tonto, and I feel like the Tonto, while it is a little bit more decorative, to say the least, it lends itself to be used as a workhorse. Drop point is just a lot more utilitarian. You can do a lot of food prep and stuff with this, and then especially with Koenig. One thing I want to mention is another YouTuber's testing on the Koenig Arius CPM 20CV is that it's not 20CV, it's Bowler M390. I don't think it makes a difference because the compositions are almost identical, and there's M390. It's Bowler M390. That's my fault. I could have looked on the knife, I guess. But Outpost 66 did post a really nice video comparing the magnet cut of Koenig Arius to the CPM 20CV of the Arius, and I think that was really smart. That was a really cool video, and you really get to see that yes, you do have a good heat-treated Bowler M390, which you can't say about a whole lot of other knife makers. You know, I feel like there is a curve of diminishing returns when you get to these expensive knives, but you want to make sure that if you're going to buy an expensive knife, you want the heat treat to be dialed in, because you could easily just go buy a $200 frame lock from We Knives or Concept or any of these other knife makers that are producing really inexpensive titanium M390 20CV knives. And you wouldn't have to waste all your money on something like this, because I had to move a lot of stuff around to get something like this, and that's not ideal. That is actually less than ideal, because then you kind of like compact your, if you're an enthusiast, you want to have a big collection or whatever, you'd have to like compact into one knife, like 3 to 4 knives into one, and you want to make sure it's the right one, right? So if you have this in hand and then you're like, I'm not really feeling it, I don't understand what all the hype is about. And now that's where we get into this next part of the video, where is the Arius overhyped? Now that I'm out of the honeymoon phase with this knife, and the reason why I think I'm out of the honeymoon phase, it would have lasted a very long time if I hadn't gotten other knives in my hand, other knives like the Quiet Carry Drift and the Oz Machine Company Roosevelt. We're able to because like I see this machining, I see the well-crafted production value of this knife, and to me, I'd never handled anything like it, anything. I've had re-up knives that were made very well, and the only other knife that I can compare this to would be the Ramon Chavez 229 drop Redención. That's what it is, the drop point Redención that I've had on this channel before. That's the only other knife that I can honestly compare it to in my own experience. Now that I've been able to handle other high production value knives, I can kind of understand where it's, well, and the Quiet Carry Drift, it's a $300 knife, and you can get it cheaper on the secondary. But the Oz Machine Company Roosevelt, that's like, you know, a lot of people's grail now. I feel like this is a lot of people's grail, as well as this is a lot of people's grail knife, the Chris Reeves Unumzon. I'm trying not to just go off on tangent land. I'm trying to bring it back down. Is the Koenig Arius overhyped? I can say yes and no. Once I got it in my hands, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. I've never handled a lot of custom knives. I haven't. So my worldview of knives and stuff like that is very much in the production level. So I'm very, what would you say? Closed-minded to things that are like worth a lot more, since this is like the most expensive thing that I've ever had, in a sense. But then you do get to have to talking about the curve of diminishing returns. Like, once you get past a certain amount of money that you spend on a knife, you're not going to be getting much more out of the knife. Now, you might get different actions, different blade styles, different tolerances, and different materials and all this other stuff, but at the end of the day, if you're going to be using it for something like everyday carry and work, you're not going to get too much out of it beyond a certain point. And I don't know what that point is, because I haven't even been close to it, you know what I mean? So there's that. Can I say yes or no that the Arius is overhyped? I don't think it's overhyped. I think once you get one in your hands, if you've never experienced it before, it's very dreamy. You're going to be on cloud 9 with it for a long time, and if this is the highest that you ever go, then that's just kind of where you're going to stay at. So yeah, the Koenig Arius. What can I say about it that I feel comfortable saying about it overall? I love this knife. I really do love the Koenig Arius. Now, is it a knife for life for me? I would like it to be. I really would. I would love to keep this knife in my collection, but the thing is, this knife holds so much value on something like the secondary market that if I ever had the need to grab something else, I could I could with very minimal effort list this one for sale, get a good buyer, sell it at a good price, and then that chunk of money would allow me to purchase something else, and I feel like that's kind of where I'm at in my EDC and my channel, that being a reviewer and everything like that. That's kind of where I am. I can't go any further than that, really, just because of how things work in the world. Things like finances, things like scarcity, things like the market, things like the fear of missing out, FOMO. So yeah, this is a good placeholder for me for now. And what I mean by a placeholder is it's something that I'm gonna be able to use, but if I ever see something else that I want, I could easily either trade or sell this to get into something else. So that's what I'm going to be using it for. I hope that doesn't really offend anybody. I hope you guys can all wrap your head around that. So for now, I am on the lookout for other knives, but in the meantime, I have a Koenig Arius that I can know, and I can knowingly use, and now know it's going to be a great knife. But yeah, so that's kind of what I've talked about, and I've talked to other friends about it as well. And they kind of get it too as well. They understand the concept that I'm trying to lay down. So without any further ado, I will say that the Koenig Arius is a very solid American-made knife, and that's awesome. It's very photogenic. I like that. It cuts very well. The heat treat is done very well. Well-built knife. Thank you, Koenig. Seriously, that once I got it in hand, I was like, this is what I've been missing out on? Crap, man, I need more. And so that's what we're gonna keep doing. Right now, my preference is, I'm really having a strong itch for something in MagnaCut. Something a little bit more higher end. I know that the Hogue Deca came out with MagnaCut, and I'd be very interested in trying something like that, but I'd also like to try something else in MagnaCut, like a McNeese 3.5. I would also like to try a Koenig Arius Magna Cut or an Oz Machine Company Roosevelt Magna Cut, something that I know is going to be like really dialed in and something that I can just like easily just keep for life. I'm looking for that for life knife. So anyways, guys, thank you for joining me on this adventure. Bye, guys.